Well, good morning and welcome back to the Chamber Vibes podcast. I'm your host, Foster Garrett, Director of Marketing and Events for the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, let me just tell you what's going on. Every week, I interview a different chamber member to find out what they do and why they do it right here at Media Squatch, which is very new. If you don't know about Media Squatch, you probably know about Watts Creative Studios. Go online, look them up, figure out the whole scoop. Or go back to the previous episode and you can hear it right from Woody, the owner and operator himself. But before we get to the actual podcast, I have to tell you about some of our upcoming chamber events. We are really pushing through the new year. We're almost done with January. We've already had 3 great events. We had our new member showcase last week, and that was amazing. We had such a great turnout, and I had a really great time just getting to know all of our new members and seeing board members and other chamber members just coming by and welcoming each other and kind of getting to know one another as a chamber once again for 2024. So our very next event is actually tomorrow. It's networking with the Free Market Medical Association, the Virginia chapter of that, and that'll be from 6 to 7:30 at the Forest Volunteer Fire Department. This event is really interesting. It is a gathering of business and clinical leaders to talk about what we can do to be more transparent with healthcare and also health insurance, both for employers and just for citizens in general. If you're a small business, a large business, a nonprofit, a government entity, this is really open for anybody that wants to talk about any of your frustrations with healthcare and see what pro-business local options are available to you to kind of alleviate some of those issues. So it'll be a really interesting conversation. It's a free event. We do ask that you RSVP on our website, which I will drop at the very end of my spiel. And yeah, it should be a great event. We'll have some refreshments and adult beverages for everybody. The next event that I want to talk about is our SMART session on February 14th. Yes, Valentine's Day, from 8 to 9 a.m. at the Bedford Central Library. Our SMART sessions are a brand new educational event series that we've put together for this year. We're doing them quarterly. And all the topics we're pulling straight from our membership survey, our annual membership survey. So the very first one, in kind of conjunction with our upcoming job fair, which I'll mention at the end of this, is the first topic is hiring, attracting, developing, and retaining employees. So if you have more than one employee, this is probably for you. So I really recommend RSVPing, going online and learning more. We have 2 experts that will be talking. Sean Hecker, who is the market manager for Manpower, which is a local staffing agency, and then Tim Saunders, who's the business engagement and outreach coordinator for the Central Virginia Workforce Development Board, which is a part of Virginia CareerWorks. So if you don't know who those people are, go on our website, go to our calendar of events, go to the SMART session page. I would give you a spiel about what we will be talking about, but there's a lot of content. We're going to have Q&A, we're going to have presentations, and we're going to have time for networking afterwards. So once again, I really recommend coming to that. That's Valentine's Day from 8 to 9 a.m. at the Bedford Central Library. Next one is our Live at 5 and ribbon cutting on February 22nd for Pinnacle Financial Partners. Our Live at 5s are evening networking events, and this is the very first one of the year, so that's really exciting. And even better, it will be at Pinnacle's brand new office. We'll be some of the first people to get on in there, and we'll be having a ribbon cutting for them as well. So that's February 22nd, 5 to 6 p.m. No registration for this one. It's free and open to the public, so grab your business cards and bring a friend. And then just briefly, I want to mention some of the other things. We have our Career Readiness and Community Resources event on March 6th from 10 to 2 at the Bedford Central Library as well. This is the very first time we're ever doing an event like this. We kind of assessed that adult job seekers need resume and interview assistance prior to arriving at the job fair. We used to have these workshops at the job fair, but you should probably have those things done by the time you get there because you're focused on other things, you have limited time, and you're nervous. So we wanted to provide a way for everybody to get that assistance for free prior to the job fair. And we're doing that March 6th. We're also going to be having different booths and information available for different resources in our community, whether that be social service assistance, food, transportation, childcare, all of those great things. So if you want to participate in that, you can let me know. I'll drop our phone number at the very end of the podcast, so listen all the way through. And yeah, I'm really excited about that one. The very next day, and I will be getting through this as fast as I can, is our business roundtable with the Bedford County of Economic Development, or Bedford County Office of Economic Development. They do this every quarter, and our very first topic is on artificial intelligence for businesses, which is a very, very hot topic. If you don't know a lot about it, come by. Even if you don't think it might be applicable for your business, you might be surprised. And as our speaker, Robert, has been quoted saying, artificial intelligence is scary and it's amazing. So this is free and open to the public. It'll be from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on March 7th. Also, the Bedford Central Library. Thank you to the library for hosting us for so many things. And the very last things I want to mention, registration is open for our 11th annual job fair and our annual legislative wrap-up breakfast. You can go online and find all the information for that. The job fair will be March 15th from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Timberlake Christian School. And the legislative wrap-up breakfast will be on March 28th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at Cedar Oaks Farm in Bedford, which is gorgeous. So if you aren't registered for those things and you have interest, please go on ahead and find that all on our website. You can find our full calendar of events on bedfordareachamber.com. And like I said, you can always come to us if you have any questions. But without further ado, please allow me to introduce today's guests, Dr. Mark Bergen and Kristen Borak with Bedford County Public Schools. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Boy, that's a lot of stuff going on in our community.
Yeah, the chamber stays busy.
The chamber does stay busy. Yeah.
Well, before we kind of jump into the question and answer portion, can you guys just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about the school system?
Sure, happy to. I'm Mark Bergen, Superintendent of Schools, and love this area of Virginia. Grew up in Campbell County.
Nice.
Youngest of five. I was a Brookville B, my brothers and sisters and I. But we moved away from the area. My parents moved back and lived right here in Bedford for half their married 60 years. And what a beautiful place we have to live and work. And my friend Kristen Borak, our coordinator for communications and community engagement. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, Foster.
Of course.
We just wanted to come on here and talk about the great things that the school system can do for the community as well that the community can do for us. We have lots of great events as well, not quite as many as yours, but we'd like to talk about those.
Of course. Before we kind of get into it, though, I do want to get both your background.
Sure.
Because I know you're new and people are getting to know you. And you're also a big part of the chamber and very active with some of the things that we do and that I do. So I always try. I think the great thing about this podcast is not just about, business or nonprofits or institutions. It's about people.
Sure.
And you guys are kind of the ones that run the show.
Well, I started with Bedford County Public Schools this past April. Prior to that, I've done public relations, but in a public safety sector. So schools was a whole new ballgame for me. Right out of the gate, Dr. Bergen asked if I would attend a chamber meeting that he couldn't go to. And I met Foster and Kayla and Holly and Pam Bailey. And we just kind of hit it off really well. And together, I think that we can do some good things for the students in the community. I've enjoyed school systems. It's definitely been a learning curve, but Dr. Bergen and the rest of the executive team have been so gracious and guiding me in the right way. But yeah, I enjoy it. I'm not a Bedford native. I'm a West Virginia native. I live in Botetourt County now, though, but I'm enjoying getting to learn it all here.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think Bedford is one of those little breaths of air between all the different areas.
And it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. And Dr. Bergen, it's cool. I actually don't know a lot about your background because by the time I graduated Bedford County Public Schools, you were not quite there yet.
Right.
So it's been interesting kind of being back in Bedford and getting to know the school system and all the different things in Bedford in a different way because I almost feel like I'm a new resident. And
interesting.
Well, schools are one of those things where I think people think they know a lot of things about it, but then when it comes to the details, they don't actually. So can you guys give me an overview of the school system, how many schools you have in it, how many students?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have 21 facilities. That includes our 14 elementary schools. We have 3 middle schools and 3 high schools, and then one CTE center at Susie G. Gibson.
Mhm.
And the elementary schools, almost exclusively all are within feeder patterns. So whatever elementary school you go to, all of your classmates will follow to the same middle school and the same high school. So the Liberty feeder pattern, the Stanton River feeder pattern, and the Jefferson Forest feeder pattern. And we have about 9,000 students from preschool through grade 12.
Oh, wow. How does that compare to some of like the other surrounding areas? Is that like a lot?
Sure. There's about 13,000 school divisions in the country.
Okay.
And Bedford, with the number of buildings and students we have, is in the upper 25% in
Oh,
terms
wow.
of size and complexity. In Virginia, if you take out the mega school divisions, the ones that are in Northern Virginia and surrounding Richmond and in Hampton Roads, if you take out maybe the top 12 school divisions, Bedford would be one of the largest of the remaining 110 school divisions. Yeah, most of the surrounding counties around us, most of the 100 plus school divisions in Virginia have one high school and a feeder middle and maybe a couple of elementary schools. So in terms of size, Bedford is larger. We're also physically, geographically, folks may or may not know we're the 5th largest geographically, with the mountains cutting right through us.
Yeah, and that makes everything more interesting, but also way more difficult in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of transportation because I know I'm from the Moneta area. I went to the Liberty Zone. But if there was, say there was snow on the mountains, if you lived in Montvale or Big Island and you're in a remote location, the whole day had to be changed because it's so hard to get anything out there. And I know transportation continues to be something that's kind of touchy, an issue.
Sure. Yeah, would love to talk a little bit about that with you, Foster. First of all, I think some of your listeners might be wondering about snow days. How do we make a snow day call? And to your point of there's so many different regions in Bedford that if we know the snow has fallen, like we always hope, if we have to make a call, that it's already on the ground the night before, so we can let families know. But it's so often the case it's going to roll in the dead of night while everyone's asleep. And so on those mornings, there's a team of us that gets up long before everyone else at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And we all stand outside and look out our windows because I'm up in Big Island, and then other members of the team live out in the forest area, or live in the Blue Ridge, or live down in the Stanton River down by the lake. And we all check in with one another about road conditions. And we make a decision that is for the safety of our students and staff. So we try not to delay or close schools ever because we always want to prioritize instructional time, but safety trumps all. So, but speaking of bus drivers, it is nationally there's a shortage of bus drivers. It's just every school division has been really challenged. So we have we're better staffed today than we were at the beginning of the school year, and better staffed than we were a year ago. And thanks to our wonderful and dedicated bus drivers who stay with us and have driven with us for years. But we do need more bus drivers. So last year, in wanting to understand the challenges of recruiting bus drivers, I personally went through the CDL training. So I now am a licensed bus driver. I wanted to know, how rigorous is it? What are the challenges to becoming a bus driver? And I can tell you, Foster, you can drive a bus. Anybody can drive a bus. There's so much automation on them with the brakes and the steering. They're really quite comfortable to drive. It's just a longer car, Foster. I mean, we'll teach drivers how to drive the bus, and we provide paid training. So anyone is listening, if you or someone is looking for even part-time work, they only want to drive just mornings or just certain days of the week, they just want to be a substitute, we'll pay to train you. So one of our events coming up for your listeners is on Saturday, the 10th of February. at Stanton River High School in the parking lot in the morning time. Anyone who thinks they might be interested can come to the high school and with one of our bus trainers drive the bus around on the school parking lot. So you can get a feel for what is it like to be behind the wheel and drive a bus. And then we'll have our HR staff on site to talk about salary and benefits and get the application process rolling. We did this earlier this year at Liberty High School, not knowing if anyone would show up or not. And we had, gosh, Kristen, what did we end up with there? Like 20 people?
I think it was over 20.
That's really nice.
We were really thrilled. And most of those folks have followed through and are now either in the midst of their training or have completed their training and have joined our bus driver ranks. So Saturday, February 10, anybody in the community, if you think you might have an interest in driving a bus or you know someone, send them to Stanton River High School. And we'll have some more conversation with them.
That is so cool. I've never had somebody look at me and say, Foster, you can drive a bus.
Foster, you can drive a bus.
I feel like it's so intimidating. I hadn't really thought about how people could be intimidated by the thought of driving a bus until you looked at me and said that.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it is you hear a CDL and you think that you need to know how to drive a tractor trailer. Like, I know that's how I feel. When I think of a CDL, I think I'm going to be driving the Pepsi truck or, the UPS truck. But, yeah, I mean, I'm sure being a bus driver has its own issues. There's kids and things, but I know you've enjoyed your school routes that you've been going on lately.
Absolutely. There's the other advantage with driving a bus, other than you can get paid to be with kids and enjoy being with kids, is the scenery is spectacular in Bedford County. So I drive every Wednesday afternoon for a different school, just so I can get a better sense of our neighborhoods and our rural areas and get to know more deeply some of our bus drivers and our students by riding along with them on Wednesday afternoons. It is a gorgeous, as we said earlier, it's a gorgeous place to live. And so our bus drivers, I like to say, are the first smile and the last smile that our students see every day. So what we're really looking for are people who love kids. If you're that person, you just love kids and you love helping kids, that's enough. We'll teach you the skill sets you need to know in order to operate the bus. The training is Kristen, that's funny. I guess I could drive the Pepsi truck if I wanted to, because I have the license. But the training is specific to driving a bus.
Yeah.
We do what's required by the state with what you need to know about air brakes and engines. But really, you need to know the controls of the bus, and that's what the vast majority of the training is. But Foster, you can drive a bus.
If you say so.
Free time.
Come on out on Saturday, the 10th of February, and drive one, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
9 to 11.
9 to 11. Alrighty. I'll see if I can convince some people to go out there. I know plenty of people that have some time on their hands and are more automobile inclined than I am.
We have a lot of folks who are grandparents who drive for us. Not all. I mean, we have lots of moms and dads, and then folks that aren't moms and dads or grandparents. They're just folks who love kids and want to drive a bus. For some, it's full-time work. They drive several routes in the morning and several routes in the afternoon, and then they've got the middle of their day to do what they want. And for some of our folks, they just want to drive mornings or afternoons, or they only want to drive elementary, or they only want to drive secondary, or they only want to drive in one zone. We'll accommodate anybody's needs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. That sounds really exciting, and it's cool that you have your CDL as well. Is there anything... I think that this has been like a conversation on social media, which bane of our existence, especially in Bedford. Y'all love your Facebook. I can say that, you guys can't. But when I went to Liberty, the awnings were always a hot topic then. But I've seen a lot of conversation between the school board as well about this topic, and as well as the auditoriums. Is there anything you guys want to touch on with that?
Yeah, sure. I know this has been an important conversation, particularly for our families whose children attend in the Liberty Zone and the Stanton River Zone. And it's been a conversation that's going on for quite some time now. Those auditoriums and awnings are now, they're decades and decades
Super old,
and they look decades and decades old. So recently, if you've been watching school board meetings, you would have seen about a year ago, the school board hired some architects to come up with some ideas of what we might do to replace or enhance the existing awnings and auditoriums. And there were some public presentations made about, here's some options, some things from an architectural point of view we could do. All that's on the school division website. And then a local area builder who was paying attention watched some of those presentations and came forward with something called a PPEA, which is a public-private partnership where the builder approaches the school division and says, hey, you've got some things you want to work on, and I have some skill and expertise in this area. I'd like to do some of that work for you. And that happened in recent months. And then, as required by law, we notified all of the builders in the area that we had been approached by one builder who wanted to bring what's called an unsolicited offer for construction. And we posted that and gave a long waiting period, and no other builders came forward.
Oh, really?
So the one builder that did come forward met with the board in closed session last month to talk about more specifically what it is that they would like to do. And so starting in the coming months, the school board is going to be able to talk more publicly about what it is that we intend to do in terms of those awnings and auditoriums that have been such a topic of conversation in the community. So I'll tease you just a little bit because we don't have an executed contract, but we're close. And once that contract is executed, then the school board will continue to talk with the Board of Supervisors about a funding plan so that we can pay for the improvements to those two school campuses, which are, again, decades old, replacing the awnings and greatly enhancing the auditoriums so that all three of our campuses, our Liberty High School campus and our Stanton River High School campus, will have the same amenities as our Jefferson Forest High School campus.
That is really exciting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will be very relieved to hear that, especially when you have an open campus and the awnings are leaky.
Yeah.
It sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting to hear that things are happening in motion.
Yeah, they're happening. We're going to keep the open campus look, which the students really enjoy. When they leave one building and go to the other, they're just going to have new sidewalks and new awnings and new lighting, and not only be safe, but be comfortable going from building to building.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And with the auditorium, you kind of touched on that. Is there anything coming up for that as well, or?
Sure. So if you've been fortunate to go see one of the wonderful productions, which we have wonderful productions in all three of our schools, but if you go over to Jefferson Forest, not only do you see a great production, but you sit in great comfort. And so if you picture what the inside of that auditorium looks like, that's what all three auditoriums are going to look like when this work is finished. So right now we have wooden seats in the older two campuses. Not what folks are accustomed to, like what we're sitting in here today as we're having this conversation. It's fancy schmancy, a little cushion under the cushion. So there'll be some cushion cushion seats and new lighting, sound systems, curtains. Awesome. It'll look like a new auditorium, existing space. We'll replace the inside. And then those auditoriums were built without really forethought for storage of props and costuming and a changing area for the actors and actresses, and lobbies for the folks coming, to gather before and at intermission, and restrooms for those guests. So all of that is part of the PPA package to enhance the whole feel for not just the performer, but also the audience member. So when you arrive, you come into a nice lobby area we can have refreshments and restrooms. And then when you proceed in for whatever the performance is, you're going to sit in comfort.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I know the community is going to be very excited to see this happen. It'll be a great benefit to the school division, of course, but also of great benefit to the community because all of our facilities are available for rent. And we do rent out those facilities quite a bit. JF gets rented more. Again, it's just more comfortable for folks inside of there. But all three of our auditoriums would make a great space for any community organization that's looking to meet in the evenings or on the weekends, as long as it's not interfering with school division programming.
Yeah, I think that that's always been like a great tradition of like the school system is being a community center, a community space for the auditoriums. But especially, I'm not sure if either of you ever went to the old Bedford Middle School. They had a huge, amazing auditorium. It was 2-level, had a balcony, and it was one of those really fancy old Art Deco spaces with like chandeliers and stuff. Yeah, and so when I went to that middle school, we were forbidden from going through it to go to classes because it was so nice. And there were so many productions that I went to with the Bedford Community Orchestra and other groups who would set up and use that space. So they've been displaced since then. And I think I don't know, I think it's really nice to be adding on to the existing auditoriums that we have now to kind of not quite go to the Art Deco space, but at least make it like really nice like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking forward to that work being done.
So I think also, I touched on this earlier with people thinking they know a little bit about the school system without knowing everything about the school system. Is there any policies or anything that you think that people should know? Any myths you want to bust?
Mythbusters.
Sure. Well, there's a couple topics I'd love to talk with you about. One of them really specific to your listeners in the chamber. And Kristen, you talked about all those friends you met earlier. You want to route, who were those folks again you remember meeting?
Foster, Kayla, Holly, Pam.
Yeah, that partnership has really blossomed into what we call the Bedford One Tours. So maybe some of your listeners have heard of it, and if not, I want to put a plug in for all those folks that Kristen just mentioned. The Bedford One is an acronym. O&E is Offering New Experiences. And so we've done, gosh, how many have we done, Kristen? I want to say 3 or 4 of them at this point.
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have one today, actually.
There's one today.
What is today's Bedford one?
Today is the public safety
That's right.
one. So.
Right. Yeah. So our students who may have an interest in law enforcement or being a first responder, working here in the community where there are jobs here in the community, and they think they may have that interest, we're going to take them out and they're going to meet folks who do that work now. And we offer coursework for them. Now, we added that last year. We added some new CTE, career technical education courses for kids who have that natural interest and they think that might be what they want to do when they graduate from high school. So with Kristen's help and the help of all those others that we just mentioned here in the town and in the county, we have been building up our career technical programming because about 6 out of 10 of our kids want to go right into the workforce. 4 out of 10 generally want to go on for further education, either at the community college level or higher education. So we want to make sure that the kids that are graduating out of high school are getting credentialed in an industry that's where there's jobs right here in the community. So that's part of the Bedford One idea. Last one I participated in was a lot of fun. We went out, and you might have mentioned the farm. We went to see where they make cider. We went to a local farm, an agribusiness, and we learned
different ones they went to.
Say again?
There was the Otter.
Little Otter Flower Farm.
That one, and then
Yeah.
There were 2 that they went to.
Right. So kids could learn about agribusiness. So if they wanted to graduate from high school, and a lot of our kids, of course, they live on a farm. We're a farming community and have really proud clubs for kids to learn more about agriculture.
Yeah. FFA is very big in the school system.
Yeah. And Liberty High School, you're a grad of Liberty is award winning.
Yes.
Lots of state presidents from Liberty High School.
Yeah. My sister did FFA. I did not. I was more of a art kid. But it's funny because my sister is like, I hate to say this about her, especially because she's not going to find out, but she's like stereotypical shorty girl. So she did FFA every year and she would be like quizzing me and she'd be like, Foster, how many stomachs does a cow have? And I'd be like, I don't know. Isn't there like 4? She's like, wrong. There's 1 stomach and 4 chambers in it. I was like, nerd. Literally livestock nerd. But so I'm really familiar with all that stuff, and it's really cool. When we had the CTE Expo, which for those of you who don't know, it's a event that we do with the school system to kind of like showcase Susie G. Gibson, which has a bunch of different CTE credentialed classes and pathways available. When we did that, it was cool because I invited Miss T, who runs the FFA program at Liberty, and we had her and Boone Tractor outside to kind of showcase agribusiness. And there were so many kids, but she just took control and would just like put all of the different agribusiness classes and agricultural classes on display, talk to them about what they could do, and then they would actually be like very well behaved as they went from animal to animal and tractor to tractor.
Nice.
Yeah, so she's a very powerful person. But to kind of go back to Bedford 1, the people that Kristen has mentioned, Pam Bailey and Holly Scheffel, they work out of the Bedford County Office of Economic Development, and Holly is really the one that spearheads Bedford 1 and is very much a champion for CTE. She works with Trevor Haas very closely.
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about Trevor and CTE?
Yeah, sure. So again, for your chamber listeners, we started a CTE advisory committee last year. There used to be one, I guess it just, I don't know, during the pandemic or before the pandemic, it just, one of those things that just sort of got put on hold, as did the position for a CTE supervisor. So we resurrected and put back in place a CTE supervisor. Trevor Haas is a great individual, lives here in the community to lead that work forward. And he's formed a CTE advisory, which includes lots of folks from the chamber and from the area. What we really need to, in addition to the Bedford 1, and we're working on this programming, is we need our students while they're in high school to have opportunities to job shadow and to do some internships. So they're learning skills on the job while they're a student. It just makes them better prepared as future employees. So we're growing that. That's a continuous effort in our resurrecting the CT Advisory Committee, is making sure that we have more businesses signing on, who want to, be a placement for our kids. So if any of your listeners are interested in that work, I would encourage them to reach out to those individuals we've named a couple times now, or just contact the school division and express an interest, and we'll follow up with you about how you can help be a part of us placing kids with your business so they can learn on-the-job skills and be better trained as future employees.
I also have to really support that because I was an intern for the Bedford Bulletin, and I have an intern now at the chamber.
Nice.
And she's a senior at Liberty, and I think a lot of business owners are nervous to get a student that doesn't have a lot of experience to come into their business and to kind of just touch on things that perhaps they want assistance with, but they're just nervous,
Right.
But I really love my intern. Cameron is amazing. She has a great attitude. She's very respectful. And the best thing about it is that she might not have come in with a lot of prior knowledge, but she realizes the school does a great job of kind of preparing her to come into the workplace and to really absorb that knowledge and be patient and listen and to really want to learn those different types of job skills. And I really enjoy having her on the team as an intern. But if you're thinking about it, definitely reach out to one of the schools, or is Trevor the best person to reach out to for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or they can just reach out to the chamber.
Okay.
And the Holly, Pam, who am I missing, Kristen?
Holly and Pam.
Holly and Pam.
Dynamic duo.
Reach out to Holly and Pam. Yeah, and they'll connect you to the source that you need to get an intern.
Good stuff.
She asked about, policies, and I sort of went down the CTE rabbit hole, but there's the most recent policy that I think is more broadly for the community that would be of interest is cell phones, and related to that, social media. And you mentioned something about, actually, isn't that interesting? Here we are using social media to reach your viewers, talking in a podcast, which I couldn't have conceived of, when I was in high school. But
me neither.
But social media and cell phones are wonderful devices that we all use to help us be more productive and to stay connected with people across the country and across the world. But if there aren't some guardrails in place and they're not used in moderation, they can be very destructive for our students and for us as adults. So we do have a new cell phone policy in place this year that's pretty practical and reasonable. We allow all of our students, even our youngest learners, to be in possession of a device because it's just become one of those things. Parents just have this need. They want to be able to know that they can reach their child or their child can reach them. So our youngest learners, our elementary school kids, can have a device, but it can't. It has to stay in their backpack and needs to be turned off during the instructional day. And then they can turn it back on when they are on their way home, so that they can communicate with their parent it's a safety issue. So their parent can communicate with them after school hours or before school hours. But during the day, they don't need the distraction of a cell phone in elementary school. Our middle school kids can also have their phone with them, but again, during the instructional day, we don't want to see it or hear it. So it needs to be in their backpack or in their pocket or on their person, but it can't be used during the instructional day. It can only be used before and after school. Our high school kids, we're teaching them how to use it and be more responsible with the device. So while bell to bell during the instructional period, they can't be on it. We can't see it or hear it. They can't use it. But between classes, most of them, really, they like to listen to their music, to be honest with you. But between classes and during lunch and before and after school, our oldest learners can have their mobile phones as long as they're using them responsibly and following all school rules. So I want to make sure your listeners who are parents know that policy is in place. And if kids, kids sometimes want to test the rules, and if they want to use their phone when they're not supposed to, then we'll take it from them and call their parent, and then have a conversation about responsible use and being in moderation, using it when appropriate. So that's one of the policies. That's one of our newest policies.
I think that's, like you said, very reasonable.
Yeah.
Especially with the high school students. I think it's very reasonable to not tell them to put it away for the whole day, because high schoolers, they're not going to do it. So
Right.
it's nice to have like some of that more, this is how you use it, this is what it's for. We're giving you a little bit of freedom, don't abuse it.
Right. And we do use, I said, technology can be a wonderful thing. We give devices to all of our students. They all have a Chromebook. So if we're going to use internet-based resources, which we do in every grade level, it's just another resource for our teachers to use. We provide the device for kids that has the right filters on it, so that they're when they're on the World Wide Web, they're only going to the places that we need them to go to or we want them to go to for instructional purposes. And then their cell phones are theirs, to use however they want to, with their understanding with their parents how they use those in the afternoons and evenings. Well, we hope, monitored and responsibly.
I was just going to add that we partner with a lot of community members too, with Horizon, the town police, and different things to promote screenagers and other just learning opportunities for parents too. Technology, even for me with my daughter and being 7, our age difference, she's learning a whole different world of technology than I am. So I can't imagine how parents of high schoolers and things feel right now so this gives them an opportunity to learn too, how to monitor their child's activity, whether it's just on cell phones or social media. And you can follow our Facebook. We usually promote those pretty well.
I think that's a great point. I think as I've gotten older, I'm really not that old. I still, when I talk to high schoolers or middle schoolers, some of the things they say that they see on the internet, it makes me go, oh,
right.
What are you doing? How'd you get there? Literally.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of them don't really realize it until they're our age, my age, that they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been looking at that when I was like 15, 13 years old.
Right. And kids are really good at hiding things. So you got to learn, where you can look, and those opportunities are there. So
we if parents who are listening to this podcast want some more information, if you go to our website and you search for my page, the superintendent's page, we put out a newsletter. Kristen and I write that together. And I think we just published that, didn't we, Kristen, about a week ago? The superintendent's quarterly update, and the lead article, which Chris and I wrote together, is this topic, the concerns of social media and parents' responsibilities to not only monitor their kids' activity, because parents, you need to know everything your kid's doing online. And parents need to model for their kids. It's, when you do as I say, not as I do, that didn't work for me as a kid or you. So, parents modeling for their kids appropriate use of social media and moderating in their use of their device to help their child learn how to use their device appropriately and responsibly. So if you're interested in reading more and you want some of those resources, just go to our website and go to the superintendent's page and click on the newsletter. It's the lead article in our most recent newsletter.
Awesome. I love newsletters, so I will definitely be checking.
I'll start sending you his.
Thank you. Subscribe me, please. Well, I think we have room for one more item of importance.
Okay.
Choose well.
Choose well. Kristen, what's something we haven't talked about maybe we want to touch on?
I know we talked about before we came in here that post-pandemic learning is obviously different than what it was previously. And unfortunately now, not only statewide, but nationwide, there's been attendance issues among every level of school. I know that Virginia is doing kind of a statewide initiative of Attendance Matters and encouraging and educating our community about why it is important for your kids to actually have butts in seats. And they have the opportunities to use all of the technology that Dr. Bergen was describing, but there's no better learning than face-to-face.
Amen. Yeah, and it is one of those post-pandemic things. Not just kids, but adults. I'm sure that, your listeners in the chamber here are also on occasion finding employees attendance has become concerning nationwide. Folks got used to, I don't feel like going today. So nationwide, in the school attendance data, it's really alarming. We have some kids who are missing up to 20% of the school day.
Oh, wow.
And now during the pandemic, we told you to stay home, especially if you were sick or you thought you were sick. We said, don't come. We want you in school. We need you in school every day. So all of our schools have really been emphasizing the importance of being in school. There's just no replacement for face-to-face instruction and human interaction with we are. Being in the same space and being able to look at each other and talk to each other and interact is a critical component of learning. So, yeah, I think if we were going to end on one topic and pull it all together, it would be starting in childhood. Parents need to make sure their kids are in school every day and are learning the importance of showing up, because that's a lifelong skill that will transfer beyond school. You mentioned your intern coming in. Imagine all of our employees. You need them to show up, and you need to understand the importance of the responsibility that we have to fully participate in the activity, whether that's learning or the job. It starts with getting dressed and going to that place where you work or learn.
And I think going back to the business side of things, you're right. It is a lifelong skill to be on time and get to where you need to go and not let, perhaps a bad day to sway you that hard in those things, to persevere through it and to get yourself back into it because you have to do it.
Right.
But I also think that the personal connection part of it, where you're socializing with people your age, you're socializing with adults, you're getting to know how to speak to people, how to have the right body language, how to make eye contact when you're having conversations.
Right.
That stuff is so essential. We lost it during 2020, 2021. And it's something that I think all of us were kind of almost culture shocked with it when we were starting to go back in person full time. And so if you as an adult are struggling with it, think about how your kid is, especially young kids who don't really remember or weren't exposed to the in-person stuff before. So like you said, you have to be a good mentor in order to continue helping, the younger generation move along. And that's not just parents. It's really anybody. If you see kids, if you're working in business, if you want to just be a better role model and to kind of help things along, there's a lot of things in this podcast that we have said that you can take part in. Specifically, Bedford 1, driving a bus, going on social media. If you see little kids on there, be like, get off of there. But all of that great stuff. But thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. This has
Thanks for
been
having us.
really informative.
And we look forward to seeing you again a week from Saturday.
Please. Okay.
210 Stanton River High School. Come drive a bus. You can drive a bus. I'm telling you.
And that's the slogan of this podcast. You can drive a bus. Well, thank you guys again for joining me. And if you guys want to learn more about the Chamber, you can call us at 540-586-9401, or you can visit our website for more information about our mission, perks of becoming a member, and to see a full directory of our membership, including Bedford County Public Schools, and to learn more about all the great things in the region. But thanks so much for listening in. That's all for today. And keep an ear out for the next Chamber Vibes podcast.